Welcome to Thriller Recaps. Today, I am explaining the movie The Sand, explaining every scene as it happens. Watch till the end, and please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy this. The movie begins at Killer Beach, where a group of friends are partying on the first night of spring break. They seem to be classmates. One of the friends, Heather, is filming the party with her camera. Vance and Gilbert find a giant ball covered in some kind of gooey material. The guests put their phones in a bag because of the party rules and because they can't be seen online. Most of them get drunk while Vance and Gilbert bring the giant ball to their party site. The party goes on as usual. Some fall asleep while the others continue to party. The next morning, the friends are seen sleeping in different parts of the beach. Kaylee and Mitch are on the lifeguard building, while Jonah, Kaylee's boyfriend, wakes up in a car next to Chanda. In the back of the car are Vance and Ronnie, his girlfriend. Gilbert wakes up stuck in a trash can, and Marcia, who is topless, is asleep on a table. The others are nowhere to be found. As the others wake up, Kaylee says she wants to go home. She remains outside, watching everyone, when she notices something strange. Marcia wakes up feeling dizzy and throws up on the ground after asking for Heather. Kaylee notices a bird stuck in the sand and sees the sand swallow it. Marcia gets off the table, complaining that she's sick. Kaylee warns her friend not to touch the sand, but Marcia doesn't listen and gets stuck in the sand. The others think she's joking and don't take her seriously until she starts screaming. Vance tries to leave the car to help her. He's told not to, but he doesn't listen and falls down, getting his entire body stuck in the sand. Mitch sees this and wants to help, but Kaylee stops him. Everyone begins to panic, and Jonah tries to start the car to help his friend but fails. They watch as the sand swallows Vance, taking parts of his body as he sinks slowly. The others began to panic, realizing there was trouble. Mitch was confused, and Jonah thought it was quicksand and suggested they dig. But Ronnie told him it wasn't, explaining that the sand had eaten her boyfriend and that she believed it was chemicals or something from the government. Chanda tried to ask for their phones, but they were locked in the trunk of the car. They began to regret their decision not to use their phones. Mitch told them not to worry, saying they were okay. He then suggested that those in the car drive over to the lifeguard building, but the car wouldn't start because the battery was dead. Mitch tried to encourage them, saying someone would come for them. Kaylee moved over to the sand and showed Mitch something like glass in the sand as she put her finger close to it. Gilbert woke up in the trash can and began to scream because he was uncomfortable. Mitch told him to stop shaking the trash can and listen. The others warned him to stop, and Gilbert finally calmed down. They told him that there was something in the sand and that Vance and Marcia were dead. He was advised to sit tight, but Gilbert complained that it hurt. He didn't want to believe them, but they pleaded with him. Mitch told him the tide would come to him in about 2 hours, but Gilbert kept complaining that it hurt. He then listened to them. Mitch and Kaylee went into the lifeguard building, while the rest remained outside. The little hairs or glass in the sand began to affect the vehicle's tires. Indoors, Kaylee asked Mitch why he lied to Gilbert about the tide coming. Mitch confessed that it was just to make Gilbert feel better. Outside, Gilbert was in a lot of pain, still stuck in the trash can. Time passed, and the group began to lose hope. Kaylee and Mitch talked about what happened the previous night with the sand. She was very confused as to why they could walk on it the previous night but couldn't walk on it now. Mitch was also very confused. They found sunscreen and tossed it to those in the vehicle. Kaylee asked again about what changed with the sand. As they spoke, Mitch realized everyone else was missing. This saddened them all, and they began to cry. Gilbert thought it was a prank and promised to get back at them once he got out of the trash can. He started to move the trash can again, but Jonah stopped him, telling him they had sunblock. Jonah threw the sunblock to Gilbert, and succeeded. As Gilbert applied the sunblock, Kaylee saw the block from last night. Gilbert said he and Vance had found it. Kaylee and the rest realized it was an egg that had hatched into a monster. She figured out that the creature was under the sand. Chanda said she didn't believe in monsters. Gilbert began to panic, but Kaylee assured them it couldn't be that big. She ran to get some hot dogs to see how big the creature was. The sand swallowed the first hot dog, so Kaylee threw another, which the sand consumed again. Gilbert saw one of the hot dogs thrown by Mitch with a bird and began to complain about wasting food. Suddenly, he noticed the bird in front of him getting by the sand and started to panic, saying they were all going to die. Mitch threw the last hot dog, and it didn't get consumed. The group realized the creature wasn't as big as the entire beach and felt happy about it. However, Chanda doubted they could reach that safe spot, while Jonah remained optimistic. Ronnie believed no one was coming for them and counted the number of people they had lost. Her insights made the others pessimistic. Jonah, tired of sitting around, picked up a surfboard and threw it on the ground to support his weight. It seemed to work. Suddenly, Jonah confronted Kaylee, jealous that she had Mitch the previous night. Jonah tried to move to another place, but the sand began to shift the board, causing him to almost lose his balance and be drawn into the sand. Fortunately, he survived, but with injuries to his stomach. He fell onto the table, nearly losing consciousness, but jerked back to reality and began to cry from the pain. Ronnie said it was poison, which was why it hurt so badly, even though Jonah had barely touched it. Jonah continued to moan in pain. He managed to pull himself together and search for a bag. A banana fell out, but he picked it up before the sand could consume it. Using the banana, he traced the sand and stepped on it, despite everyone warning him. Fortunately, the sand didn't hurt him, and he seemed safe for a while until Chanda noticed Jonah's body was oozing pus. This scared the entire team, and Jonah started to panic. Ronnie told him to get on the table and check the bag to see what he could find. Jonah painfully obliged and threw a drink to Ronnie, which she shared with Chanda. He also tossed water to Gilbert, who appreciated it and seemed impressed. He then threw a can of Pepsi to Kaylee and Mitch but missed as his stomach released more pus. Jonah tried to rest on the table while the girls noticed that the surfboard was being moved by the sand. Kaylee saw that the tires were also being affected, causing the vehicle to sink gradually, which frightened everyone. Gilbert's situation seemed to be getting worse, and he started to panic again. Gilbert asked for the phone, and Ronnie and Chanda tried to get it from the car's trunk. It looked like it might work, but Ronnie thought she might not make it and told Chanda to give her mother a letter she had written. Gilbert's situation was getting worse, just like Jonah's. Kaylee and Chanda continued trying to get the phone from the trunk, but they were unable to. Kaylee asked for the rescue hook, which Mitch handed to her. The hook seemed to hold Ronnie a little, but the car continued to sink. Fortunately, they managed to open the trunk, and everyone was happy about it until Gilbert saw a vehicle, which distracted them and caused Ronnie's fingers to get stuck in the trunk door. As she screamed, the beach patrol officer, Alex, saw them and asked what they were doing there since the beach was closed. Kaylee warned him not to get out of his car and explained that there was something in the sand. Alex asked why Gilbert was in the trash can, but the others screamed about the sand and begged him to call for help. Alex didn't believe them and thought they were on drugs. He asked if they had drugs and got out of his car, unaffected by the sand. The group was shocked that Alex wasn't affected. He walked over to Jonah, saw his condition, and got irritated. He then went to Gilbert, made fun of him, and asked if he was on some kind of drug. Alex tried to help Gilbert but failed and left him alone before walking over to Chanda and Ronnie in the car. He asked if they were lesbians and said it was the weirdest day of his life. Mitch realized that it was the guard's shoes that were protecting him. Alex continued to mock them, thinking they were mocking him. He then told Mitch and Kaylee to come down from the building, but they refused. Alex threatened them to come down, but they kept refusing, talking about the deadly sand. While arguing, he accidentally dropped his keys and tried to pick them up but got stuck in the sand. He was advised to use his pepper spray. Although he managed to use it, most of his hands got causing everyone to scream. The shock from losing his arm made him fall back and sand, killing him. Kaylee managed to grab the pepper spray. Mitch decided to protect his feet by using towels, spraying them with pepper spray, and wearing flip-flops. Chanda threw a towel at him, which he caught, but when she threw the second towel, he fell over and broke the banister, causing him to fall. He was then in the sand in a more gruesome manner, causing everyone to panic. After a brief moment of sadness, Kaylee took charge. She told Chanda to use the broken pieces of the railing as a bridge to get to Jonah. Kaylee then jumped from the building to the vehicle and slapped Chanda across the face before they pulled Ronnie's fingers from the trunk and bound her wound. Gilbert was told he was going to be saved and to turn around and face them so he could see what was happening. Gilbert said he couldn't turn around as his legs and back were stuck. As he tried to move, he accidentally hit his stomach on the trash can, causing the creature to be alerted by the blood. Before they rescued Jonah, Chanda praised Kaylee's relationship, saying she thought they'd get married and have kids. They then created a makeshift bridge to get across to Jonah. Chanda told Kaylee that nothing happened between her and her boyfriend the previous night. The bridge worked successfully, and Kaylee was able to reach Jonah. She told Ronnie to go next, but Ronnie refused, saying she couldn't get blood on the sand. Gilbert then announced he was bleeding because he had scraped his belly. He begged them to get him out of there. Kaylee also managed to cross and reach Jonah. Ronnie tried the bridge and almost made it to Jonah before she tripped. She fell into the sand, and Kaylee immediately sprayed the part of the sand where Ronnie had fallen, which seemed to help. However, suddenly, Ronnie was sucked into the ground. Everyone in the group cried for her. After a brief moment of grief, Chanda used Mitch's idea and tied towels around her legs. Meanwhile, Gilbert's blood was being sucked in by the sand. Mitch's plan worked, and everyone seemed happy as Chanda made it to the truck. As Gilbert laughed happily, he was suddenly sucked down into the ground through the trash can by the creature. Everyone cried as the creature banged against the truck, knocking Chanda unconscious. At night, Chanda regained consciousness and went to the back of the truck, where she found a raft. She opened the raft so Kaylee and Jonah could get to the car. She got into the raft, and was followed by the others. The team used the raft to get into the car. Kaylee confessed her love to Jonah, and as she tried to kiss him, the ground shook, throwing her out of the car and onto the raft. A long, glowing tentacle emerged from the ground and attacked Kaylee. She managed to climb to the top of the vehicle, grabbed 2 gas cans, and set one of the large tentacles on fire using a match she had gotten from the lifeguard building earlier. Chanda told Kaylee to get back inside, and she did. They locked themselves in the car as the creature tried to destroy it. Suddenly, the attack stopped. After calming down for a few minutes, Kaylee and Chanda realized Jonah had finally died from the creature's venom. The girls mourned him and the rest of their friends who had died in the incident. The next morning, the girls were awakened by a man who had discovered they had spent the night in the vehicle. He asked if they were okay, but Kaylee and Chanda didn't reply. Kaylee got out of the car and noticed the creature was gone. She took Chanda with her, and they walked away from the beach. The man noticed Jonah was dead and saw that Kaylee and Chanda seemed traumatized as they left. It was then revealed that the creature haunting them was an enormous, venomous jellyfish, seen underwater and heading toward another beach.